What's good, everybody? Welcome to the channel. I'm your boy Jay. I am the Bishop of Barnes and Noble this month. It's July, y'all. And welcome back from the July 4th weekend. As I'm recording this, we've just wrapped up. And like most Americans, I am sunburnt, hungover, and I have the jingle from the Mentos commercial stuck in my head for some reason. I'd love to fight somebody about that one. I don't know how that got in there, but this ought to help, though. And as we get back from the holiday weekend of festivities, maybe we averted our attention to Vinegar Syndrome a little bit during their alien invasion sale. We got to get down to what July is really about. It's not about hanging out at my pool all day and eating bratwurst and drinking German beer. By the way, that's how you celebrate a true American holiday, right? Like, go get all of the Axis powers food. Like, I'm having sushi and German beer and German bratwurst. Just, it's patriotism. At any rate, we're getting back into what July is really all about, because it's not about America's birthday. It's not about individual liberties. It's not about freedom or democracy or spreading that democracy via imperialistic wars or the CIA watching me. People are listening to me right now through the Amazon Dot or Echo or whatever my dad brought into this house. I got Siri blocked and turned off on my phone, but Lord knows they're still listening anyway. What I'm trying to say, it's not about all of these patriotic things. George Bush did 9/11. The CIA conspired with the mafia to kill JFK. This is already established fact. I don't think I've said the F word yet, and yet probably I've already killed this video in the YouTube algorithm. Like, oh no, the world is flat. The earth is flat. If you call it a globe, we're going to fist fight while listening to the Mentos jingle. What I'm trying to say is that the true spirit of July is not America. It's not George Washington. It's not bald eagles screeching. It is about Criterion sales. It's about getting Criterions for 50% off. It's about Criterion 4Ks that only cost $24. I got Paper Moon for $18 on 4K. That's a Paper Moon 4K for $18. How do you even argue with that? I've paid more for used DVDs. I've paid more for used Criterions. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Let's put a pin in that. Speaking of Criterion, there are a lot of things I love about Criterion. I own more Criterion releases than any other boutique. So don't take the wrong way all of the shit I'm about to say in this video. I bought my first Criterion, The Seven Samurai. This guy right here. See that guy? No, you can't, because there's glare all over it. That guy, you see that guy? 1999. I was still in high school when I bought this. That was the second DVD I ever bought, right here. I'm holding it. I can't get rid of it for sentimental reasons, even though I've upgraded to the 4K. I've been buying Criterions for a darn long time. And so everything I'm about to say, I believe over the last 25, 26 years, I have earned the right to say. So I'm not hating on Criterion. I'm not shitting on Criterion from any place but love, right? It's like when I reprimand my children, it's because I love them and I want them to grow up to be good and kind and compassionate and polite adults. So go sit in the corner, Criterion. Criterion kind of is the OG boutique in a lot of ways. I mean, they predate a lot of the boutiques that we talk about on YouTube. Nowadays, they predate Scream and Shout, Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow. They predate all of those. And back in the day, Criterion had some very good distribution. They were widely available in stores like Best Buy. People knew about Criterion. They were there. They were on the shelf of a popular box store that people would walk through, like me. Circa 2003, I'd go walking through the Best Buy to see if there were any new Criterion Collection DVDs on the rack. And that's wild. But Criterion even goes all the way back to the days of Laserdisc. That was kind of the genesis of the Criterion Collection. And many of us are too young to remember that particular generation. But some of us, you weirdos, not me, I don't own a Laserdisc or a Laserdisc player, but there are some of you weirdos out there like, I'm gonna go, I have just too much money that I can't possibly invest. I've maxed out all my Roth IRAs for the year. I need to go buy Laserdiscs. I don't understand it, but I'm going to try not to disrespect you too much in this video. I feel like with the laser discs, they really helped to shape physical media as it exists today, the stuff that we know and love and expect today. And I don't think they always get the credit that they deserve for that. I mean, Criterion Collection invented the film commentary, for Christ's sake. Film commentaries did not exist before 1984. Criterion Collection releases King Kong on Laserdisc. So we have Criterion to thank for ubiquitous commentaries that are available on pretty much every boutique release that we buy these days. Some boutique releases coming with 2 and 3 and 4 commentaries. And we have Criterion to thank for that. And now 40 years later, how pissed off are you when you spend $40 on a movie and it doesn't have not one damn commentary on it? You ought to be able to give somebody 50 bucks on a free copy of the movie to do a commentary. There's no reason not to have a commentary on a disc, in my humble opinion. And Criterion's not even taking a taste of that. They should have patented that shit. Another thing that I like about Criterion, before I start complaining about them, is that they are one of the more affordable boutiques, especially if you wait for a sale. You can get Criterion 4Ks of bangers like Le Samurai or Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, many more for 25 bucks each during the Barnes and Noble sale. Amazon matches the Barnes and Noble prices, so you get an incredible selection of Criterion films that you can get for 25 bucks for a 4K. So I think Criterion Collection is a very fair with their pricing, particularly compared to other boutiques. There are movies that I paid 80 bucks for a single film. Yeah, it's a nice big box set of Reanimator. It's a wonderful presentation. It's worth every dime. But I mean, I paid almost triple for Reanimator from what I paid for the 4K of the Seven Samurai. So I think Criterion is very, very affordable, and the quality is quite good for 30 bucks. The quality of the Seven Samurai 4K is top notch. So I also love their selection of classic Hollywood films, films of the 1930s, films featuring Cary Grant. The Awful Truth is all three of those things, and one of the best films ever made for it. So that's an incredible Criterion release as well. They've got The Awful Truth, which is easily in my top 10 films all time. Something else I love about Criterion is that they don't activate FOMO with limited editions. You don't have to break yourself trying to buy up all the Criterions you want in their first month of release. You can wait a little bit, it'll still be available in a year. However, some of the things that I love about Criterion are also things that I hate about Criterion. Firstly, there aren't any special edition Criterion releases. No steel books, no slip covers, almost no slip covers, no limited editions at all. You get what you get, whether they released the thing 4 years ago or 1 week ago. They got words and shit. They got like text and words and shit. Look at all that. I can't read that without my glasses. Look at all them tiny little words. They got words and shit all over the back of their movies instead of titties, like a Vinegar Syndrome release. Vinegar Syndrome's always putting mad titties on the back of their release, sometimes like fully out, you know? I like that better than I like words. Sorry, I'm a voracious reader, but I like the titties even better, you know what I'm saying? You know? It's cover art for a reason, right? It might be the backside, but yo, I'd like to see some art on the backside. Put the words in the O card or the J card or whatever, and then put some titties on the back of this mofo, you know what I'm saying? Criterion also often uses these really just frankly piece of shit digipak things, which suck. It's just this plastic case glued onto like a cardboard back, as you can see, and they just suck because half the time you can hear the discs rattling around in there when you're opening the Amazon box. God help you if the little plastic here in this ring that holds the disc in, God help you if that plastic breaks. And Lord knows this plastic is brittle and prone to breaking. I've bought many of these things where this plastic ring is broken. It's partially broken. That disc ain't never going to stay in again. At least with a case, you can just swap out a new case. You're not married to that digipak like you are with these Criterion releases, where you can't replace the thing if it's broken. If this tiny little spindle is broken, you can't get the disc to stay. And what are you going to do? You're going to, I guess you could send it back to Amazon or whatever, but anyway, I kind of feel like you're stuck with it, in my opinion. I much prefer that Amaray case with the rigid slipcover for the security of the discs. And the digipaks just feel janky, like they're just always on the verge of coming unglued from the cardboard backing. Overall, I feel like the digipak, it just feels a little bit cheaper. Where something like Radiance's release of Bounty Hunter, for instance, it's a 3-disc set, but it comes with 2 cases that hold those discs in quite securely. And if one of those cases were to break, they're easily replaceable. You can just slide the artwork out and into the new one, put the discs in the new one, and bada bing, bada boom. You don't have to send the whole thing back to Amazon because the little piece of plastic broke. Anyway, it has a little bit of a more premium feel to it. This is a little bit cheaper with what Criterion's offering. So, all things considered, Criterion offers mostly, for the most part, pretty basic bitch packaging. I mean, there's slipcases for the movies that do offer slipcases. They have slipcases on their digipak releases, but the slipcases. I'm holding up the one for Seven Samurai here. It's empty. It's certainly not as thick or rigid. I like them rigid as the Arrow or Vinegar Syndrome rigid slipcases. So when you get a slipcase from Arrow, when you get a slipcase from Vinegar Syndrome, they're a little bit more rigid. They have a little bit more of, I guess, a premium feel to them, a little heavier feel to them, a little heavier weight. This feels like, it's just regular cardboard, like the weight of the cardboard that Vinegar Syndrome uses for their normal slipcovers. This doesn't feel like it should be a rigid box. It feels like Criterion is getting a little bit left behind by Arrow and Vinegar Syndrome and some of the others who are putting out like nice, rigid. Even the Bounty Hunter box set that I mentioned a moment ago has a nice, more rigid slipcase to it. So Criterion also tends to err on the artsy side. This isn't a problem for everybody, but for some folks, this can be kind of a problem. They release less of the lowbrow genre or exploitation stuff that you see from other boutiques. And that's why you have boutiques like Vinegar Syndrome and Severin and others that have rushed in to fill some of these gaps where Criterion is really delivering boutique releases that meet a certain level of prestige, cinematic prestige, which I don't think can be applied to a lot of the stuff that Severin releases or, like Night of the Demon, the movie about Bigfoot where he rips the guy's dick off with his bare hand. That is absolutely savage, completely worth watching because it's totally off the wall and unhinged and bonkers in some really good ways. But you're not going to get that kind of thing from Criterion. What you're mostly going to see from Criterion is some highbrow stuff. There's no iced from Criterion. You're never going to see iced from Criterion. Little Darlings, I think Criterion would have put that out if they had gotten it instead of Cinematograph. I think Little Darlings would have been at home in the Criterion collection. Thieves Like Us, that's another Cinematograph title that it's an Altman after all. I think it would have been at home with other Altman releases that Criterion has eagerly put out, things like Nashville and Shortcuts and other Criterion releases. I think they would have put out Thieves Like Us if they'd gotten their hands on it, just to bolster and complete their Robert Altman offerings. What you'll never get from Criterion is something like Jason Goes to Hell or Basket Case or Cellar Dweller. Criterion will absolutely never touch shit like Dirty Work. They'll fuck with Night of the Living Dead, but never Return of the Living Dead, if you catch my drift. And I think it is a little bit unfortunate in the Criterion collection that it's not as well rounded in some of the more lowbrow stuff. You don't get a lot of lowbrow stuff from Criterion Collection. All of it tends to be fairly highbrow, which feels a little bit exclusive. It feels exclusionary of some of these lower brow films that nonetheless people like. You're going to find a billion people that love Return of the Living Dead on YouTube alone. Search for that shit. You'll find 100 people in 5 minutes that profess their love for Return of the Living Dead. Criterion ain't going to release it. It's just not their style. So I think they're missing out a little bit on stuff like that that could draw people into the collection, get them kind of purchasing. They don't have as much of that like gateway, bring people in stuff. Arrow has a ton of stuff like that. Shout, Scream Factory especially, they have a ton of stuff that's going to bring people in because it's popular, it's well known. It might have been something that was out in the theaters 20 years ago, like the Amityville Horror remake. That's going to bring people in. It's going to familiarize them with your label, and it will get them feeling good things about your brand and bring them in as a customer. I think that's an important part of any boutique that's going to you're going to release dozens or more titles. You really need to have some that are kind of the leaders that bring people in, and then maybe people dig around and start getting into French New Wave shit. That's something I think Criterion could probably do a little bit better. It means Criterion is just a little highfalutin. They got standards. Unlike me in college, Criterion has standards. We had this thing called Hog Hunt Thursday. So there's a reason that we pretty much exclusively watched Criterion releases in film school. Like, they wanted to be the assholes that publish all the classy shit. Criterion makes movies for people who exclusively call movies cinema. And there are many Criterion releases that I love. I have Bergman and Kurosawa and Renoir right over there, just off camera. But despite my own pretensions, I simply cannot deal with like all of the fart sniffing that comes with cinema snobbery. So I just can't do it. Furthermore, while I have in the past expressed an affection, even at times a sexual one, for some of Vinegar Syndrome's slipcover art, Criterion's art is really hit or miss for me. Some is like god tier level artwork that's just blow your mind, some of the best artwork that you'll ever see on any physical media, anything. Some is shit, just absolute dog shit. I don't even want to look at it. It is not pleasing to the eye at all. The 4K for Les Samurai. This is just fuck it. I'll put it up right over there. I'll put a big one up over there. Absolute best 4K for Les Samurai. Look at how he's coming out of the shadow like that. Look at the composition. It's simple yet striking. He has an elegance to him, even though he's a hired killer. He's emerging from the shadows. It's so evocative. It's beautiful photography, while being simple in its composition and everything like that. It's still super effective. But other stuff like Mafioso, I, I can't do it. I got Mafioso. I don't like it. Somebody just drew Tony Soprano. They just stole Tony Soprano for their homework. They just stole the Sopranos homework. That's what they did for Mafioso release. Also, Seven Samurai, much as I love the film, I mean, look at that. The design is just it's simplistic. There's not a whole lot going on. I much preferred the original artwork that I showed you a moment ago for the Seven Samurai. Their original DVD artwork was a much more striking composition, great black and white photography. The Toshiro Mifune's longsword extending up into that negative space. It's a beautiful composition, and I think the new artwork is just meh. A lot of their new art is a severe downgrade too for some of their double dips. Like the original artwork for their Lady Eve DVD release, it leans a little heavily on their original poster art, but that's my only complaint. The new art for the Lady Eve is caricaturish to the point of being ugly. They hired an artist who somehow managed to make Barbara Fudging Stanwyck look unattractive. How do you do that? Did you have to use up one of your 3 wishes to achieve such a feat that you made Barbara Stanwyck look ugly? She looks like a 50-year-old gypsy lady about to steal his wallet or some shit. A lot of their recent artwork, especially for their older films, their films of the 30s, they rely way too much on this overly cartoonish linear artwork with some bits of color, and in my opinion it leans way too hard into a kind of like Sunday funnies art style that does not appeal to me at all. No way, no shape, no form. It is completely unappealing. It's very ugly, particularly when we're talking about golden era stars of the 1930s that were objectively beautiful human beings. You make them look this bad. It's terrible. All you have to do is look at Criterion's artwork for films like Notorious or Rebecca or the aforementioned Les Samurai to see how well it can be done, how striking composition and beautiful photography can be attractive. It pulls people in, it's evocative of the film's meaning or its aesthetic, and it really does make people want to pick that movie up off the shelf. Like, I want to see what this Rebecca movie is all about. That looks haunting. That looks incredible. Like, I wanna watch that. I wanna pop that back in and revisit it. It's been like 10 years since I've seen Rebecca, and I need to rewatch it, so I'm waiting for the 4K. But nope, let's hire this cartoon guy again. Maybe he can make Sophia Loren look like Rosie O'Donnell or some shit. I think my biggest gripe, though, about Criterion is something of a culmination of all of these smaller complaints. They are the OG boutique in a lot of ways, and sometimes it feels like Criterion's just not keeping up with the times as much. They're still doing the thing that they were doing 15 and 20 years ago, and they're not keeping up with newer companies that have maybe taken over a little bit recent trends in physical media. So I think companies like Vinegar Syndrome, even Arrow and Scream Factory might be overtaking Criterion in terms of restorations and transfers, the kind of quality that Criterion was formerly synonymous with. Criterion was like, these were the best looking films that you could possibly buy on DVD 20 years ago. But now I think when people online talk about pristine transfers, restorations that look incredible. I mean, people talk about Vinegar Syndrome releases, people talk about era releases of some of the things. A lot of the Scream Factory releases look incredible too. And I don't think you hear as many people talking about how phenomenal Risky Business looked. Or I thought Les Samurai, which I recently watched the 4K of, I thought it looked incredible. I thought Les Samurai looked amazing, and I love the visual style of that film. So for me, it was great, but you just don't hear people talking about it. And I don't know if it's because Les Samurai is a relatively less popular film than something like The Keep, for instance, or even Dirty Work is a more recent mainstream release, and something like Les Samurai, which is a French release of the 1960s. So, maybe it just is what it is. But I don't think Criterion enters the conversation about restorations and transfers and just looking incredible in 4K the way that some of these other boutiques that I just mentioned do. I also think Criterion seldom releases larger booklets. I think they need to put a bit more into their print materials. I am, as I've mentioned, a voracious reader. So I really appreciate when you see these larger booklets. Arrow, for instance, routinely includes booklets that are more robust than Criterion's, even with their not chunky box set, just their slipcover releases. I think their booklet for Jason X was like as big as the booklet that Criterion did for Seven Samurai. Hold on, I can verify that. No, it's actually a little bit smaller. This Criterion booklet is one of the rare instances where this booklet is essentially identical to, in size and content. This is about identical to a chunky box that Arrow would release, or like the print materials that Arrow really or the Vinegar Syndrome released with Dirty Work or The Keep. So this is pretty decent for Criterion. Unfortunately, a lot of the Criterion releases tend to be kind of slim in the booklet area. And so I think Criterion's even getting beat out by other boutiques that are releasing these print materials too. And Criterion was really the first person to do that. How many VHS did you have where you slide the VHS tape out and there's a booklet? That didn't happen. That began happening with Criterion releases of DVDs. DVDs did not come with print releases except for Criterion's, which would come with that booklet that was always nice to have. And unlike everybody else, I actually read those things. Anyway, I do think that the type of publication that you get from Criterion and something like the Seven Samurai is relatively rare for Criterion. It's much more likely to be a slimmer booklet. Here's the one for The Awful Truth. I mean, it's a very slim booklet. I mean, you got Cary Grant's smiling face. I do love this film, and I love Cary Grant. I love Irene Dunn too. She is subtle and sly and reminds me of my grandma because she's just like a cranky old broad from the 1930s. Anyway, this is a relatively small booklet. I think the booklet that Arrow released for Jason X was bigger, like more pages, more writing than this. And I don't know that there's an excuse for that. I mean, if Vinegar Syndrome can give us like 50 pages on dirty work of all films, Criterion ought to be able to do just as much for one of the greatest films of all time, and that is The Awful Truth. So, really inexcusable. More evidence of Criterion being stuck in the past is their relatively recent adoption of the 4K format. Criterion didn't release their first 4K until 2021. Can you believe that? That's about 5 years into the 4K life cycle. 4K is, I think, started cropping up about 2016. So it was about 5 years into the life cycle of a format that they really should have been a little bit quicker to adopt, in my opinion. But now that Criterion is mostly all in on 4K, they'll release most of their movies on 4K, unless it's a screwball comedy of the 1940s. Then I can go fist myself, is basically what they want me to do, because they keep releasing stuff like midnight, Blu-ray only. In 2025, I can't buy this on 4K. I can't get my favorite film of all time, The Awful Truth, on 4K. That's a movie I will double, triple, quadruple dip for. So it annoys me a little bit. I get annoyed a little bit with any Criterion Blu-ray that I've bought or was gifted over the past 5 years, because they're double dipping. I think I bought Thief when it first came out on Blu-ray, and granted, that was probably 2020-ish, 2021, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's been 3 or 4 years since I bought that, but here it is. It's back again. It's on 4K. So the double and triple dipping by Criterion is real. And to some degree, that's a function of them just having existed for so long, but in some cases it can be a little bit over the top too. For example, Criterion has released The Seven Samurai at least 4 times. They first released the single disc DVD that I held up a moment ago in 1999. Then they released a 3-disc DVD set in 2006. So that was about 6 or 7 years later. Then they released a 2-disc Blu-ray set in 2010, 4 years later. They're coming back to the table. They're coming back to the well to dip again. And most recently, they released the 3-disc 4K set in 2024. So that was a little bit better gap between the Blu-ray and the 4K there, being a 14-year gap. But that was 4 releases over 25 years. So I will grant the Criterion Collection that. But it also shows you that Criterion Collection is happy to re-release things, particularly when there's a format upgrade, and it can feel a little bit excessive. I mean, it sucks to buy a whole bunch of Criterion DVDs and then a couple years later start converting them all to Blu-rays, and you're chipping away and you're getting that collection updated, out with the old, in with the new, and then boom, 2021 rolls around and here come the 4Ks. I got Thief on Blu-ray. Am I gonna get Thief on 4K? I kinda want to, but on the other hand, I don't wanna buy Thief again. I wanna spend that money on something else. I'm running out of German beer over here, guys. I need to go get some more of that. Meanwhile, there are a ton of really great Criterion releases that are stuck on DVD, of all things. Go through the Criterion Collection website sometime. You'll be surprised at how many of their releases, even prominent stuff, Stanley Kubrick's version of Spartacus, stuck on DVD, at least for the Criterion release. Criterion has not been able to release that on a more modern format, and that is wild to me. That is a topic for its own video, though. I have probably gone on too long already in this one, so I will save that for the next one, where I come back to talk about the travesty that is Criterion releases that are still in print, mind you, stuck on DVD. So to summarize, I own about 175 Criterion releases, many of which are multi-film sets, like the Bruce Lee set, Once Upon a Time in China, Jackie Chan box set, Ingmar Bergman box set. So a lot of them are multi-film sets. So it's quite safe to say that I own well over 200 films released by Criterion, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. If they keep selling 4Ks for 18 bucks like Paper Moon, I'm just going to keep buying. And so I also appreciate their complete rejection of FOMO sales tactics. I love their efforts to bring long out of print films like Peeping Tom, The Long Good Friday, and This Is Spinal Tap back into the collection. I love it. Right after I bought the DVD of This Is Spinal Tap 1 year ago for 30 bucks. So you're welcome, people. I did this by buying this 25-year-old, 26-year-old DVD for $30 last year. And now the 4K is coming out. It's not even going to be 30 bucks. But I do wish that they would improve some of their artwork, get rid of the guy who's doing all the caricatures, send his ass back to Six Flags so he can do them shits for 20 bucks for the tourists or whatever. Beef up the print materials. I want more robust, thick, robust booklets, and give me some rigid box sets. Give me some rigidity to my box sets. I want box sets on Blue Chew, dog. Get them hard for me, okay? And also, I do wish they'd get into a little bit more modern genre stuff outside of their Hong Kong martial arts movies. They don't do a lot of modern horror. They definitely don't even touch exploitation. But we don't see a lot of that, and I'd like to see a little bit more of that type of thing. And I think it would make them more competitive with some of the other boutiques that have risen up in the last 5 to 10 years. Anyway, it's time for me to thank you all for clicking this video. To bid you adieu, good night. I hope you sleep off those hot dog sweats from the July 4th weekend, and I'll check you on the next one. I'm gonna go drink the rest of this German beer because it's 4th of July weekend still, bitches. Peace. I love y'all.